Our August quilt of the month is going to go together lickety split.
Join us as we go through all the perks of this no seam matching quilt. Hi, it's Fran Morgan.
And Donna Robertson with Fabric Café.
One of my favorite things in a pattern is when I don't have to match seams. This makes your quilt super fast to put together.
And that's why we picked the pattern Lickety Split for our August quilt of the month.
This pattern has no seams to match. Plus, it's got some other great perks. Let's go check out the quilt and I'll tell you all about it. Now here is our Lickety Split pattern. And as we mentioned before, there are no seams to match in this pattern. Why? First, we have built this in vertical rows right here. So we have these columns of rectangular blocks that are sewn together. And we have a sashing strip right here in between those columns. So these seams from this one to this one don't have to match. That sashing takes care of that, which is great. Now, some other benefits of this quilt. We have our number 1 and our number 2 position. Both of these positions can take a directional fabric, which is fabulous because we all have that in our stashes and we need to use it up, and this is a great one to do that. Now let's get it on the table and we're going to show you exactly how to make this quilt and some inspiration with some other fabric. Okay, the first thing you're going to do is you are going to cut some strips, and these are cut to a certain size and then sewn together in one big strip assembly. So
this may be the biggest strip assembly ever.
Yeah, jumbo assembly. It's very cool.
It's going to go fast.
So our first strip assembly has our number 2 fabric on top. Then you're going to make a second strip assembly with your number 1 fabric on top, and I'll show you why in just a moment. And from this strip assembly, you are going to be cutting 1 row. I don't know about you, but I think that was probably the fastest row on a quilt that has ever been made because you've just stripped it, cut it, boom, you're there. Now, we've written this pattern so that you can use directional fabric. This is why we have 2 different strip assemblies. One with our number 2 on top and one with our number 1 on top. So you can use directional fabric.
Yeah,
makes it super, super great. All right.
You're not turning that row at all.
That's
so that
correct.
You know it can go the right way.
That's correct. So you have a 1 like this with number 2, 1 with our number 1. All right, now we're going to do our sashing strip. So here's a row, here's a row. Our sashing strip is simply cut. When we've got these width of fabric, we're going to sew these end to end, and then we are going to cut them to size. And of course, all of that is listed in the pattern, and we're going to sew this in between our vertical rows here. Now, you can do this a couple of different ways. You could not cut them to size and just sew them on one side and then trim them even if you wanted to do that, just to make it go even faster.
Yeah, that would go fast too.
So that is another way to do it. So these don't match. When you're sewing this on, there's no matching. You're not stopping to pin. You're not doing any of those things. So easy and quick.
You know, the cool thing about this quilt is you'll probably get it made before you're ready for your first coffee break.
You could probably sip some coffee while you're making it. Okay, so excited to see this fabric that we've put in this. Now you got a little sneak peek when we did our pieces and parts, but having this fabric laid out here, you can really see the full glory of it. Now our focus fabric is the darkest fabric in this case, which is fine because you get to pick that first. Once you pick your focus fabric, we're going to take that out of the equation. The one you're going to compare the next 2, the lightest one will be your number 2, the darkest one will be your number 3. And the focus fabric does not come into play with that. So it's kind of a neat little system that we have there.
It is. It makes picking out fabric so simple.
So simple.
You don't ever have to wonder, well, will that look good here? Will that look good?
Right.
Because we've thought about that when we designed the patterns. And so when you get ready to pick out your fabric, you just take that out of that equation and it's just so super simple.
It really, really is. All right, let's talk about placement of these fabrics in our quilt. So our focus here is going to go everywhere you see the birds on the beige here, and we're alternating this with our number 2 fabric, which is the snowflake on the white. And it's like a double focus, which is really, really cool in this case. Now we've put this number 3 as our sashing here, And what I really think is interesting is we need some contrast here. But because our focus is dark, our number 2 is light, we actually kind of went with a mid-tone on our number 3. But it still fits the equation of being the darkest of the 2 remaining, which is very cool. So we've got some nice contrast in our sashing and a nice frame for our border. And of course the texture also helps with that contrast, which I think is great.
I like that. That little bit smaller for that number 3 fabric, the little bit smaller print works.
Wowie kazowie.
That was amazing.
That snowfall is just beautiful. You can almost feel that crisp air. You know how it is when it's the first cold day and it's just like...
Yes, you love it.
Oh, it's so good. And I love the way the fabric number 3 borders it, and it gives us that movement in the middle of the quilt. It's really, really good.
And I really do like the fact that the sashing keeps you from having to match up any corners.
Ooh, me too. You're going to make this quilt in no time whatsoever. All right, let's get you the kit info on it. It is called Winter Chill, and it's the Lickity split pattern from Fast and Fun.
This is fun fabric that's going to look so good in here. We actually have 2 prints here for our 1 and 2. And you know, a lot of times we tell you whenever you're doing a double focus that you want that a separator color in there. But what we're doing is we're doing a double focus with the size of the fabric, the larger print, and then the middle size print, and the contrast of the colors.
Yes,
so it works. Yeah, because they're touching in the quilt, but that will be okay if you just get that contrast in there. So our animals are so cute. They have lots of different colors in there. I love this fabric.
I do too. It's the animals and some little quilt blocks in there.
Yeah, the quilt blocks just add a lot.
It's so cute. Yeah.
I've always liked those little touches. So that's going to go everywhere you see the gray, the kind of putty color here on the quilt. Now for our number 2, there are so many colors in that number 1 that you could pick many different colors. You could pick out the tan, you could pick out the kind of a gray color or a light blue. I really like green. It's one of my favorites. And so we picked out a green because it's going to match the different colors. And that's a good tip for you. If you're quilting and you're getting ready to make a quilt and you want to, you have a fabric that has lots of color in it and you're trying to figure out, oh, which one would look best? Just pick out your favorite color.
There you go.
Because that means you're going to love the quilt. So our number 2 fabric is going to go everywhere you see the lighter color birds that are in this quilt. And then for that separator color, the blue, the number 3, that's going to be your sashing here as well as out here. And aren't those fun? Those are little animal prints.
That's cute.
Yeah. So all the different kind of animals have all the different kinds of
Yes.
footprints that they're picking up in this. And the pine cones on the number 2 is just precious. How fun.
It really is. And you're right, you could pick any color, but that green is perfect for that.
It really picks up the green in that
Yes.
number 1 fabric. I really like that. And I love the contrast so you can still see the movement going on. There's actually a diagonal movement going on with those rectangular shaped blocks.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
I hadn't really focused on that, but I see it now that you say it.
Yeah, so it makes it have the super simple pattern with a lot of movement going on.
Now be sure to stay until the end. We've got some great photos to share of your amazing quilts.
Now the name of this particular kit is Lodge Life, and it is the Lickity Split Quilt of the Month.
I love it whenever we can find an ombre fabric to put in our quilts.
Yes.
Because one of the things it does is it makes it look like you've used more than 3 fabrics, which is such a cool thing. So in this kit, we have such a beautiful ombre. It's a big scale floral with butterflies and all different kinds of flowers. A little bit different than the traditional thought that I have of an ombre.
Right. I love it.
It's so pretty. So the flowers are a little bit smaller near the selvages. They get bigger in the middle, and the colors kind of change. So you've got some yellow, some pink, some red, some purple, some blue. It's going to have this fabric in all of these spaces, but every single one is going to be just a little bit different, which is super. Just love it. All right, now, because we had such a dynamic, fun fabric number 1, we went very simple with our fabric number 2. has just a little bit of texture to it. It's a white with a little blue and yellow speckle on it that's going to pull in some of the focus fabric colors. And it's going to go where you see the birds here on the white background. And then our fabric number 3 pulls in a lot of our colors from our focus. And guys, this is a stripe. Now this pattern, Lickety Split, is the perfect place to use a stripe in position 3. Because when you cut this, you're going to cut perpendicular to your stripe, and it's going to give you all these little lines on your sashing right here and on your borders. So it's going to give so much interest and so much fun to your quilts.
I love it.
It's going to be great. It's so cool.
It almost has that scrappy look that we love so much when you cut all those pieces out of that ombre.
Scrappy look with no scrappy effort.
It's a no-thinkum.
Yes, absolutely. But you can see how you have some yellow blocks in there and some pink and some red and some blue, but it's all the same fabric. It's just going to fall that way naturally. It's so
gorgeous.
Then we cannot ignore that number 3 stripe because it is the perfect little divider in there, frames it perfectly as the border, just really gives it lots of interest.
It does. I love stripes in a
I
border.
do too. All right, this kit is called Peppy Petals.
Now this is a fun quilt, and it has a really fun emblem on it. Did you know that the pineapple is the
Symbol of hospitality.
You got it. See, I remember us talking about that before. But it is the symbol of hospitality. And what's fun about that is it would make a great housewarming present or a thank you gift for someone maybe that you've gone to visit. It's just perfect for that. And I've just always loved pineapples because of that symbol.
Yeah.
Now, the number 1 fabric is going to go everywhere you see the birds over here in the gray. And I think this is going to be wonderful. It has so many colors.
I love the rainbow background.
Oh, I do too. It really does add a lot of interest to the quilt. Now, it is the number 2 fabric. We went with a really hot yellow. We really wanted to pick up the pineapple color.
Sunshine.
Yeah, and it picks up all of that yellow in the pineapples. So
good.
And then our number 3 is this great blue. Now, that's the darkest shade of our quilt. It's the darkest part of the number 1 fabric. So it's really going to make a great separator and have that, make that yellow kind of stand out, but still give it a complement that is just so perfect. I love it. I love that blue up against.
The blue is grounding. It brings it all back down to earth.
Yes. Well, you know, I love the yellow because it reminds me of slicing into a pineapple and getting all that juicy pineapple meat.
It just looks like a vacation on a quilt to me.
It does.
I need a vacation.
Oh, yeah, that is a gorgeous quilt. I like the way that it turns out.
All right, now for a limited time, you can get the pattern Lickety Split for 10% off the download. Just use the code on the screen. It runs from today until the end of August.
And the name of this kit is Pineapple Punch, and it's the Lickety Split pattern.
Now we're going a little Christmas for this. I really like this.
I do too. These are fun ornaments.
They are. They kind of look retro to me.
Yes, they
have
do.
that real kind of old-fashioned flair and all different colors, all different kinds of ornaments. And it's all on a really rich green background, which I kind of like.
I like
now,
that too.
These are directional, but they're going to work in our number 1 position just fine, which I love this pattern for. This pattern just solves so many problems, you know?
It does. And you can use any size print in those blocks.
You really, really can. We've seen big, we've seen little, and it looks great in everything. All right, so for our number 2, we wanted to keep it interesting and we wanted to keep it coordinating. So we have a little pine branch here with some little berries, which is very fun. It picks up some of the colors of the green in here, the green and red. And I think because we have a little bit bigger space for our number 2, I like to have a little bit of a print in there.
Yeah, it does. It makes it more interesting. And again, like we said, you get that high contrast and even contrast. And if they're even sitting up against each other, you can still works.
And I like it too because it kind of keeps that vintage feel of the ornaments, which is kind of neat. So for our number 3, we've picked up this red. Now it's a tone-on-tone texture. I love that. And it just really adds the extra pop it needs for the perfect Christmas quilt. Wowie kazowie. I know I always say that, and I just love it. I just love it whenever we see the images. I love it that the ornaments are directional and they're in there and they really stand out.
And I love that red. That's the perfect coordinate for these fabrics because each, the 1 and 2, both have a little bit of red in there.
It just feels like a good homey Christmas quilt that, you know, you're not going to be afraid to cuddle up next to the fire or spill your hot chocolate on because this was so fast to make and it's going to be perfect. Because you know me, I'm going to spill my hot chocolate. All right. This is called Bauble Brigade.
We have some fun rodeo fabric here.
That is fun.
Do you remember when we used to go to the rodeo
Yes.
when you were young?
Oh, yeah.
You know, rodeos are one of those things that if you have young people, it's just such a different experience for them to go to the rodeo. And I like the fact that this fabric has the rope running through both the number 1 and the number 2 fabric.
That's cool.
So it gives it that little continuity with this little line going through all of it. And I can see it matching up as it goes through the quilt as well. Now, our rodeo guys are hard at it, trying to stay on those horses. And we're going to put that fabric in the number 1 position right here. And then for our number 2, I love this. It has the saddles and the hats and the boots and that
horseshoes,
rope.
the spurs.
The spurs. Yeah. And that's going to go in that number 2 position right here. And so much interest going on and tied all together with a denim blue in that number 3. So it's going to make the perfect sashing here and out on the border. It's a really simple texture so that these 2 bold prints are going to show off, and we have that high contrast between the 1 and 3. Now let's look at the quilt. It's so fun.
It really is. So this is another good example of this quilt. This is a bigger print and it really, really works.
It's amazing to me sometimes how some of these patterns just look so great in anything from a floral. Yeah, you want to go elegant, you want to go rodeo. You got it with this pattern.
And I love that great comfortable blue jean blue there. That is just perfect for this.
Yeah, I kind of live in blue jeans nowadays. So I agree. This is the perfect quilt. And this one is called Rodeo Roundup.
Now, like we promised earlier, we've got some great quilt photos to share with you. First, let's look at some of our June Quilt of the Month vintage. Joni sent in this gorgeous version of vintage. I love it. She's used an alphabet panel for her blocks. That is the very center. But something that she did is she bordered her blocks because they weren't quite big enough. I have to give you a huge high five for that, Joni. Very clever and being very innovative. Because, you know, that's not that hard to do. And you can make any panel basically fit, and I think it's perfect. Now, she also added rows and columns to make the quilt just a little bit bigger. Way to go, Joni! Another star in your cap there. I think it turned out great, and I love the way that you just took some creative license and made it work. It turned out gorgeous.
Now, Lori went with the nautical theme for her panels. She added a braided border. Isn't that cool?
Oh my, that is amazing.
So that kept the theme going. And I love this. And it looks like she made it extra big too.
Oh, she did. Yeah. Well, there's a lot more blocks and rows on that than it normally calls for. That's great.
And the colors are super. But I guess those boats and their ships in each one of those panel squares is so cool. So way to go, Lori. This is a gorgeous quilt.
Now, Pam sent in 2 images of her vintage pattern, one a red version and one a blue. Now, these are a little bit different, which is really kind of cool. On her blue version, she tweaked the border to make a little starburst and put the panels in the center. I think it's kind of neat. So you can look back and forth between them and you can see how the corners of the quilt have that starburst and then they go down the edge.
That was so clever.
It's so clever. Very, very nice, Pam. Great job.
Now, Kathleen used more than 3 fabrics, and she added a border with her number 2 fabric to create a great dimension. So that is really super. You can see how she has the multiple borders on there. She also made a custom backing. Look at this backing. That's cool. She used some extra blocks down the back.
That is so clever. What a great way to use up the leftover blocks from your panel.
And it would be very fast. It's almost like a zipper look to it, so that
so
you've got
cool.
the two big pieces on either side of those blocks. Good idea, Kathleen.
Now, Emily sent in her version of vintage, and she also used more than 3 fabrics. And she added a border and used some of her leftover panel blocks in the border, which I love. Very clever.
I like the way that just kind of expands the design out further. And it's a pretty good sized border that she's added as
Absolutely.
well.
Colors are gorgeous. Your panel is gorgeous. I think it just all came together great. Great job, Emily.
Now let's look at some photos of our July quilt of the month, Old Glory. Holly made this great version with guitars. How cool. It really changes it up. And I know there's a lot of people out there that like to play the guitar that would like that
so
particular
cute.
quilt.
So
That's
clever.
great, Holly.
Very good. Now, Shelley sent in her version. She used more than 3 fabrics, and she changed up her border, really adding a nice big frame around it. Love this. I
That's
think it's
super.
super good. Yes. Very good, Shelley.
Now, Carrie, she used a beautiful floral. I love florals in this quilt. And she said that she wanted to make it in traditional colors, but with a flair by adding the flowers. And I think you've succeeded, Carrie. Thank you so much for sharing.
Now, Janet sent in her version of Old Glory. And Janet, I recognize this fabric. It looks amazing. Now, you did some special things using this fabric. She cut her stripe lengthwise along the selvage so that it would go horizontally on the quilt. That was very, very clever because it makes the stripes, that gives them a softer edge so they kind of ombre almost down the quilt,
that's
which
great.
super cool.
Now, Mimi used fun textures in red, white, and blue. Oh, look at the polka dot, the blue polka dot. Isn't that cool?
So good.
It adds that little bit of texture that you like so much in a quilt. And you can do a lot with just getting those different textures.
Yes.
Very nice, Mimi. Thank you for sharing.
Now, we also wanted to take a minute and share some of the quilts from our very first quilt of the month that we weren't able to share with you previously.
Now, if you remember, our very first quilt of the month was Patriotic Pride, and I love what you did with it.
I love how many of you tweaked your borders, and I love that the patterns support you enough to change it up and make it your own.
Your creativity never, ever ceases to amaze me, and I thank you so much for sending your photos. It's one of the highlights of our day.
If you would like to send us your pictures of your quilts, send them to quiltstars@fabriccafe.com.
And if you'd like to go back and see where it all began with the quilt of the month, then be sure to watch the video that pops up.
Happy quilting!